So how many more apps can I add on that are just going to drive me crazy?
How many ways can I get people to call me an asshole?
Yeah.
You know, like anything you say, and anything you say, people are like, fuck you.
Absolutely.
If you're just like, I don't think people should punch each other on stage.
I was going to say,
you're an asshole. I don't like violence. Go fuck yourself.
You were mixing it up last night, but did we really think that he would maybe kill him?
I would say,
subscribe to the podcast, KFC Radio on YouTube.
Bang.
All right, let's do it. Judd Apatow is live in the flesh here for KFC Radio. Anything happened last night in Hollywood?
I wasn't there. I was here resting up for you guys.
Appreciate that, man. That is. We were just kind of talking about it before you came in. It's for us. It's like, for fans, it's just the craziest. That level of two guys and that stature in that moment, I think, is probably the craziest thing that's kind of happened.
I mean, isn't it like symbolic of the world right now? Just everyone has just kind of gone off the rails.
That's crazy.
That's what we were saying with Will, where if you look at what happened in that span of 4 hours, whatever it was, if you had to anyone else, you'd be like, that person is like, it would be like, I was laughing, I was violent, I cried, I danced. You'd be like, that's a roller coaster of a night there.
It's been a rough couple of years.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost like scripted to then win the award. You know what I mean? It's like
sometimes it's like the moon lines up with the sun, and then it all just kind of happens.
Right.
Exactly. A way that makes the perfect story.
Well, that's what we were saying, because it's almost like that's probably, I feel like that would be one of the things that kind of contributed to it, was just like he's like, this is my big night, and then now you're making me look like an idiot, and now I'm gonna go, because it was he was he's probably gonna win.
I think people are so torqued up for so many reasons.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what they are.
Right.
Like, what has people just like kind of,
Well, last night it was alopecia. Alopecia was enough to like send people off the rails, Yeah.
Or who knows?
Right. Oh, you mean with him? Yeah.
Or with anybody. Everyone in the room is kind of, everyone is feeling tense, dealing with our stuff. That's kind of what the whole last 2 years has done. Like, we're all reassessing and having different feelings.
Yep.
I mean, that's why so many people are just quitting their jobs by the millions.
Yeah.
Just people are just like, I don't like my life. Things aren't going right.
And I mean, I'm never messing with anybody again, because you don't know what they're going through. And you don't know who's an MMA fighter anymore. You don't know what can happen.
You don't know
shit
who's
goes
got
bad.
the jiu-jitsu. Not me. If you're going to fight, I'm the guy to fight. It won't go well for me.
We were talking about what would it take for, in that moment, I probably would have done what Chris Rock did. I hope I would keep my cool and just be like, well, I wish that didn't happen.
Well, certainly it's something that you've ever prepared for as a person who hosts things or whatever. Like, you don't see it coming in any way.
You don't see it coming. He's so quick. But when he did the kind of laugh, he's like, wow. Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. That's all you can say. That's all you can say.
That's a seasoned performer.
Yeah. So we got the book right here too as well. So we're doing a little 2-for-1. We got the movie out now and the book. We've also in recent months we had Ricky Velez on a bunch of times. And I know you guys have become almost partners in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And I know he just seems like over the moon about it. I feel like you're probably a pretty good guy to get in business with when it comes to this movie gig, huh?
Well, he was so helpful to me. Like, we were working on King of Staten Island, and I wrote it with Pete and Dave Cyrus, and Ricky's Pete's best friend, and every once in a while I would just be like, I don't understand like how this character would behave, this like fictional version of Pete, and Ricky was just always so helpful and crazy funny. And then sometimes you realize like, oh, he's a writer. Like, he really knows story, he knows character, like just And then so we just started doing writing sessions like to punch up scenes.
Did you know him prior to that?
No. Yeah, Pete was always like, Ricky's the greatest.
Yeah, well, I feel like he's the guy. When I saw him, I was at a Pete Davidson comedy show, and Ricky was opening for him, and I was like, Pete's great, but like I was like, that guy is fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
And I feel like when people either see Ricky or whatever, they realize like the talent he has. So
that was the first person that Pete said, like, we got to do it.
Yeah.
We got. I mean, basically, most of the cast is like our first conversation with Pete.
Right.
It's like Ricky and Bill Burr and Marissa Tomei. I mean, it all. I was like, okay, well, sometimes you think about it, like, wait, let's just think who else is out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like you've probably got one of the best Rolodexes out there when you want to do a movie now. I feel like you can pick from, your pick of the litter almost. So when the guy comes in and be like, how about this and how about that? You better be right, because I don't think I would be telling Judd Apatow who to fucking cast or who to use.
Well, that's part of it is listening to that, right? So when there are certain people, like when we work with Amy Schumer and she's like, I think Colin Quinn should play my dad. You have to really listen to that because they're having some instinct of what would make it funny, or emotionally she's connected to him in some way. Oh, you should have Bridget Everett in there, or Nikki Glazer, and so that all usually makes it way better. So I never wanted to be like, I'm going to bring in my guy, my team. I'm really like listening, like like in The Big Sick, we had Bo Burnham was in there, and and other people from Kumail's world, and that made that world come alive.
It's interesting hearing you talk about how collaborative you seem to be, because Judd Apatow doesn't seem like he should be collaborative. Where he's like,
I should just not
this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I do. But then, like, I was even reading about how your daughter Iris helped you out on the Bubble, where you're writing the TikTok star.
Yes.
Where you were going to write it.
Yeah, because how the hell are you going to understand that, right?
I can't get the app downloaded.
Right.
I still, I didn't go deep into TikTok because, like, how many things can I get into?
Yeah. Oh, I'm done getting into things.
Yeah.
If I'm not interested in it now, I'm out.
My cutoff was Snapchat. When Snapchat started, I was like, I don't even know what the icons and the buttons do, and that's where I tapped out. But then, if you're not on TikTok, I was like, well, I can't keep doing it. Because there's going to be something after TikTok. And after that, what am I going to have? 16 apps on my phone? Like, you got to draw the line somewhere.
I don't even mean technologically speaking. I mean, if I haven't done it yet in my life, I'm probably never going to do it.
Oh, you're just...
I was
old dog, new tricks.
I was talking about it I was talking about it this weekend with some people were like, you want to go get a fresh shave? Because I was at a wedding this weekend. And I was like, I've never gotten one. I don't want to go in there and look like an idiot and not know how to do stuff. So I'm just going to skip it.
So anything you haven't experienced, that's it.
That's it.
There's no more experiences.
Nothing. I
got to respect it.
I don't really know how to act. I'm like, I don't. What if he's going to ask me questions I don't know the answers to? Like, I'm not doing that.
There's always like a moment, like new technologies, where you just go, I'm not jumping in. And you feel like your grandmother who's like, what's the TiVo do?
Yes.
And you just go,
that was the first time I felt really old.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like when you don't know the hit music, when you don't know the slang, the current slang, and when you can't do like the latest technology.
Even when you're watching like the people walk in the Oscars and you go, I now know 10% of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm in the business and I'm paying attention.
That's probably a bad sign, John. You should probably know more than 10%. We should know 10%. You probably know
I'm like, I know Schumer.
My kid is playing on he plays Minecraft on Nintendo Switch now.
Yeah.
And I was like growing up, I was a video game kid, and so I was kind of excited, like, oh, I'm going to do video games with my son now. And I'm like, I don't even know the buttons. I don't know how to do any of this shit. I feel like ancient.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like we usually keep up, kind of on the cutting edge, so even more ancient. I don't know. It's harder to keep up when you realize.
I stopped at Space Invaders.
That's where you tapped out Space Invaders.
I mean, Galaga. Like, and literally, like in high school, I was like, I can't do the next move. It was all kind of beginning because I was there full Pong time, like the very beginning of all that shit. Like I had the first Atari when it came out. I was like, I'm the first kid on the block with Atari. I am the king.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment like, I think I'm already bored of this and never want to do it again the rest of my life.
The social media too is like, there's only so much toxicity I can keep in my life. So how many more apps can I add on that are just going to drive me crazy?
How many ways can I get people to call me an asshole?
Yeah.
Like anything you say, and anything you say, people are like, fuck you.
Absolutely.
If you're just like, I don't think people should punch each other on stage.
I was going to say,
you're an asshole. I don't like violence. Go fuck yourself.
You were mixing it up last night, but did we really think that he would maybe kill him?
I would say in the world right now, you don't know. It's not what he did; it's what could have happened. You don't know what could happen.
Right.
I mean, any scenario could have played out from that.
Right.
That's how it was handled. That's how it was handled by Chris.
Right.
We have no idea. So anytime you're like crossing the line,
you gotta be prepared for the worst.
It's like being in a bar. Like sometimes something crazy happens.
Well, there was a doctor who shared your sentiment, and she was like, "Well, they could trip and fall." I was like, "You're right. That's true.
Well,
but that's probably not gonna happen."
Do we want to be in the world to find out?
No.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's a 1 in a million, do we even want to do that?
Right.
You know, but it is interesting because people are just like, well, that never could have happened. Like, okay, that's what you're passionate about? The never could have happened theory? You know, I mean, shouldn't we all be in the world is watching, let's all be cool and be positive?
It's a fair message. Don't hit
I was going to say it's a safe one. You would think most people would get behind it, but so talk to me about the bubble. It's kind of taking the pandemic. I mean, the world that you lived, right? It's a little bit meta, right? It's like making a movie in the pandemic about making a movie in the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's meta like 70 levels.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Deep. You know, like we have like someone playing the COVID supervisor who's terrible at it. So like in the morning, the real COVID supervisor would tell us how to be safe, and then we would yell action, and the fake one would make fun of that one.
Yeah, so I was wondering about that. Like when you have someone who's in the bubble being shitty at their job, and then that person in real life is watching, are they like, oh, wait a minute. You guys think I suck at my job? You know what I mean?
Like definitely some of that.
Yeah, it's like, wait a second, I'm that guy, and it seems like you don't like that guy in the movie, so what the fuck?
Because in the movie, no one's really following the protocols the way that they should, and there's a person frustrated by that. And then there's the real person who's watching that, but then as soon as someone yells cut, all those people have to take it seriously.
Right.
Because the person that was in charge of the whole thing at Netflix was Vivek Murthy, who's now the Surgeon General of the United States. He used to work for Netflix telling movies how to stay safe.
Really?
So that's what we would talk to on the phone. And we listened to every word he said, and we didn't have one case in the whole, 9 months of making the movie.
Yeah.
So like you can do it safely. It's just
follow the rules.
You follow the rules and you test constantly and
no
you need
sneaking out.
No
Come
sneaking
on,
out.
a little sneak
I am actually
out.
surprised. Like now that it's over, they said like don't like we weren't in the bubble, but they said don't hang out after work. Nobody did. Like I had one dinner with Fred Armisen the day after we wrapped. And that was it, which sucks because that's the whole fun of making the movie is like the hang, and that's part of why you do it.
Yeah, but do you think if you were at a different stage in your career, like if you're a young actor or actress, you're like, I'm not staying in this bubble, right? I mean, when the NBA
in London, right?
Oh, I'm sure there are people on set somewhere who are like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, people like Snap and they can't handle being alone.
When the NBA was trying to keep everybody in the bubble, I was like, this is just not gonna happen. I mean, or maybe you're just saying, but people are either coming in or you're going out. Something's gonna happen.
Sometimes you got to stop at the strip club.
Yeah, get those wings.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. That was part of the inspiration for the movie. Was that story?
Yeah.
It's like,
an unbelievable tale. Like,
but
so much fun.
But he said that they were good.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe they were good.
Yeah.
You know, then everyone's like, they do have delicious food there.
Yeah, it was very quick when people were like, it was Magic City, right?
Yeah.
People were like, oh, it was Magic City? I get it. I gotta get it.
The French toast at Magic City. They got the breakfast.
What do you think about the sentiment I've seen floating around for the past few years that like the comedy is dead in like a lot of the early 2000s that you're basically solely responsible for in a way is just not like what it once was. Do you subscribe to that? Do you think that's true?
Well, they're not making a lot of comedy movies. So
but it's like
I don't feel like they're
reason for
making
that?
bad ones. I feel like they're not getting
doing
made.
it.
Well, I mean, before the pandemic, you could feel it slowing down a little bit at certain places. Like where I work, Universal, they like to make them. So, we've been able to keep going. But I think when you are trying to make a movie that makes $1 billion and has 11 sequels, like the brain trust says, let's put all our time there.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so whatever movie like we make, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall is not going to make $1 billion and get 10 sequels and create its own universe.
Right.
So then each studio decides, well, I hedge my bet against these crazy expensive movies with a couple of rational movies that, like, if some of them hit, we can make some good money. Because every once in a while, the mega expensive movie makes no money.
Right.
And they're screwed. So they're like, oh, we'll make a couple of horror movies over here.
That's
a
what I
couple
feel
of comedies,
like it is,
you know.
horror and the action. And
superhero.
Well,
Yeah. So you just don't get the investment in like the genre, like in Meet the Fockers era.
Yeah.
Because they're chasing big money.
And
I think.
those don't typically like do well in the box office. I just feel
Well,
like
a great one is The Hangover, and so I think.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
So that
my
smashes,
belief.
right? But
if you make a fantastic one, I think
sell,
everybody goes, and they go in a big way because there's no movie that's like whatever Hangover level funny that didn't make Hangover money.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you can't name the movie that you're like, that's the funniest movie of all time, and
Yeah, it
it
was a
made
bomb.
$3 million in the box office.
But
like they're all
do they
successful.
all do like when you say successful? It's like it's not going to be that Marvel level.
It's not ever going to
Is
go
it gonna
Avengers
be-
level
right.
because maybe it doesn't open up in China. It doesn't open up
Yeah.
in certain markets at the visual excitement of things blowing up and people flying around.
What level would they like a very funny classic comedy from that
Yeah.
era? Like what level did it make? Box
Well, I
office
think in
wise?
those days, like when movies were really doing well worldwide, they would make, a good comedy could make like $200 to $400 million dollars.
Big bucks.
And they used to make a lot of money on like DVD. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and someone would
Right.
make the same amount on DVD. DVD went away with the streaming. And that's part of the reason why they're not as profitable was, people used to buy those movies
Right.
in mass. And so all that money has kind of disappeared and turned into streaming.
And so you think it is a studio thing and a business thing? It's not like writers aren't writing them and actors aren't interested in them. It's more just money.
Yeah, and also I think that the jobs in comedy are generally on TV shows. So if I'm a young comic, I'm trying to get staffed on Big Mouth. I'm not writing my movie. Where in the old days when they made a lot of movie, there were a lot of scripts around. Like all your buddies were like trying to write a feature film.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to create a show.
Which I mean, I get it, and there's so many funny shows, but like when we do it all the time here, like list your favorite. Just the other day, another podcast was drafting your favorite 2000s comedies, and I mean the names are like the most important to us. Like our generation is those titles are like. I'm just surprised that more people are just trying to do TV because I think if you get a super bad and a knocked up, like those are. You're set for life in a way of like you mean an iconic comedy.
Yeah, but a lot of those people, like there was a market. It was called like a spec script market where people would write a script, they'd send it to every studio in town, they would all bid, and people would make a lot of money on those comedy scripts.
Just from reading.
They would sell them, right? So like you'd send it to every studio, and then they would have a bidding war.
Yeah.
And that thing stopped.
Got it.
For whatever reason, maybe the studios were like, we didn't make enough of them. We bought a ton of them, but maybe we didn't make that many for how many we bought. And they just decided they didn't want to do it that way. They want you to bring in the script and the actors and the director, and then they'll decide if they want to make it. The whole process has changed, and I think it maybe people feel like you can get your stuff made quicker or get your money faster working on a TV show. That's my theory.
Yeah, I mean, I love the TV
I
shows
could be
too,
wrong.
but I'm like, I feel like the market right now is like they would go nuts for one of those comedy classics. I feel like would make $1 billion right now.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've been like in the theater, really like I mean, it was old school and Wedding Crashers and and there was you had to see them all, and then Will Ferrell had his run, and and now if that came back, I would be like, I'd be like, let's all pay double so that it does make $1 billion so that they fucking keep making these movies.
Well, we said that the whole pandemic, like if someone made the Hangover Part 4 right now, it would be the biggest movie of all time, right?
Yeah, right.
But I think, comedy
will need you to pay for Bradley Cooper's salary to get
exactly. It's a very different. Dr. Ken wants way more money than he did the first time.
Is that part of it too? Like, I mean,
Sometimes.
it does feel, and maybe this is just because it was the era that I grew up in. And maybe you could point to a million stars in Hollywood, but it feels like there was this run of like up and comers who were probably young and relatively cheap.
Yeah,
it always felt like one of your movies, like your movie that we're watching now is setting up the next star for the next movie and the next one. It was just like you had everything planned out, and it was just like an endless supply of those stars. It felt like.
Well, at some point, everyone gets their rate, and then you can't afford to make it with that cast anymore. And that's the hard part. Like, or everyone has to go like, we want to work together so bad, we're all gonna, take half of what we get to have the experience of being together and making things. And that happens sometimes. But when you do a movie and everybody's unknown, then you can get all the funny people.
Absolutely.
That's how
it's
how
kind
it
of like
works.
sports in a way. It's like when you got to pay the quarterback and there's no more money on the salary cap to build the team around.
Yeah, and then the team starts going like, maybe we don't need a great tight end, and we'll keep the quarterback guy. We'll save a little money there.
Right.
And that is part of what happens. Because you wish that everyone was in the movie together.
Right.
You want like all our favorite people, to be in one movie together, and then you're like, well, that would be like the $200 million comedy.
Right. I feel like there's creative ways to make the money too, where it's like you don't have to pay me straight up $20 million. Give me sales or royalties or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it can be done. It just like takes work. And people have to want to do it and have an idea that they're excited, to do together.
So tell me about the book, because that's a whole other. This is the sequel to Sick in the Head, obviously Sicker in the Head. Is this something like you write yourself? Is it like because a lot of times it's like in collaboration with, or
there's no one
solo Judd Apatow?
This is a solo project. I mean,
Crazy.
basically, the first book, Sick in the Head, I took all the interviews I did for my high school radio station, and I did some new ones with people like Chris Rock and Jon Stewart and Amy and people like that. And all the money goes to charity, to 826, which provides free tutoring to underprivileged kids. And so for this one, we were in the pandemic. And I thought, everybody's home. Everyone is available. They can't tell me they're unavailable. So I started calling people like Letterman and Amber Ruffin.
And it's like, Hassan Minhaj and Amy Schumer and Will Ferrell. And, the names are just crazy.
Yeah, and they're like deep talks because everyone was at home really vulnerable and scared and depressed. And so everybody really went there. Yeah. They probably more than I understand. So a lot of them were, conversations about, about things that I've always wanted to ask people. I've always wanted to ask Nathan Fielder how he made Nathan for You and what it was about and how he did it. And
can he give an answer? Like I feel like that's like some of you like I was just born this way. I got nothing.
That brain of his is donate that to science one day.
I grinded him hard about like what does it mean? Like what are you saying? And he said something that was interesting. Because the show's about him trying to help people with their businesses.
Right. Yeah.
And he said, really, like the joke of the show is that I want to be friends with them. But the idea that I have a show means it would be inappropriate for me to cross that line. So if you watch the show, it's really about me always holding back the fact that I just want to get rid of the show and be friends with it. And Sacha Baron Cohen, there's a great interview there.
The middle of the book here, it goes Mulaney to one chapter, Mulaney to Kevin Hart to Lin-Manuel Miranda. In the middle of the it's you've got the best of the business in this right here. It's unreal. I mean, it's like it's like a podcast book in a way, right? It's like all
when I was a kid,
you want to have.
I think I wanted podcasts to exist. I didn't know what they were, but I wanted the long formats. And that's why I would like go hunt down Jerry Seinfeld in 1984 because there was no Jerry Seinfeld interview. Now there's a lot of it. And I think that the difference here is I'm friends with a lot of these people, so I can really have, deeper talks than you might even hear on a podcast. And if you're interested in being a comedian or an artist, I think they just give you a lot of the answers about how you do it, how you should feel about it.
Can you write those down? We would like to know how that works.
Now, you were saying that in Sick in the Head, that was what you did in your high school radio station. And is that, would you call them and you'd say that that's what you actually worked for? Would you tell them you're a high school kid?
Well, no, I would just say I was with WKWZ Radio.
Did you have that voice? Did you do the radio voice?
I probably did a little deep voicing. Yeah. And I would call the publicists. And back then, I also think that no one wanted to talk to comedians. There was no internet. There were no podcasts. So if you said, I want to get an interview with Jay Leno, the publicist didn't have 10 people trying to get to Jay Leno. No one was trying to get to Jay Leno.
Really?
So a lot of times it just made them look good to set him up with an interview. And then I would show up with like a little weird tape recorder from the AV squad and it would get really uncomfortable.
Shit.
Like,
they think they would be coming and a child would show up with a tape recorder.
It's like a Fisher Price, karaoke machine.
There's always that moment like, are they going to be so bummed? And some people would be, and some people would just go for it.
I'm going to say now, I'm going to demand that you stick to the book and don't do the podcasting. Because we're fucked. People like us are fucked. If guys like you, I'm already mad about certain celebrities who start a podcast and they just have an endless supply of interviews, and they're already talented and professional, and they just blow schmucks like us out of the water. So you are not allowed to have like the Judd Apatow show where you just put all those on Spotify and iTunes. It's not.
It hasn't happened yet.
I will walk up to you and slap you. There will be a problem if you do this.
I'm not sure why. I think like just because I like so many podcasts that usually when I'm working, I think, what doesn't exist? Mm-hmm. And so back then, that didn't exist. And now that there's so many interesting interview shows, and I'm a fan of them, I don't think like, well, I better get in there and do the thing no one's doing because I think they're doing it.
Well, you would be late to the game, but what you provide would change the game. You know what I mean? It's like if you're just a Joe Schmo.
Fine, I'll do it.
Like, I'll do it. We got 10% because we came up with the idea on here.
Somebody call Friendster. I'm in.
What do you think is next? Is there like a whole different medium or something that you're trying to do outside of movies and podcasts and books?
I mean, I'd love to try to write a play or a musical. I'd love to do something for the stage. I thought about it once and took almost a year and researched a thought and didn't write one word. But that is the thing, because I think our process is suited for the stage. Like, we punch it up, we watch it, we fix it, we fix it again. And like, I think that process would work for developing a funny play, because there really aren't that many funny plays, and not that many new ones. Not many people trying to do what Neil Simon did so many times. So hopefully I'll get to do that at some point.
What is your kids? I feel like it's so funny. Like in a lot of the families I know, like the dad jokes and the dad humor is often kind of like, oh, it's corny or whatever. But when you have the resume that you have, it's kind of like you're undeniably like one of the funniest people to ever do it.
It's still dad humor. I realize the key to dad humor is all you have to do is walk in a room and talk to your children as if you don't realize they want you to leave. So you just walk in a room and there's like my daughter and all her friends, and you're just like, what are we doing tonight? Can I come to dinner? And then they laugh at you. Like that's the most shocking, horrifying thought ever. That's a dad joke. You can do it in any situation. Where are we going next? Can I come to the movie?
You do it every time, and they laugh every time.
You're right, because like I'm now reliving that happening, and I'm uncomfortable and awkward, but I'm laughing
because you have to. You have to laugh, because otherwise it's like, well, wait, does he really want to come? We have to laugh to make sure it's a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
I was reading an interview with you in the New Yorker, and you had something funny that I thought was funny, was that you discovered walks on the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
During the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think
like the whole concept. It's so weird.
I'm like, you can go walk around for a while.
I'm like in my 50s, and because I had heard that like every day at noon, Lorne Michaels takes a walk for an hour. And I hadn't heard that for decades. And I was always like, what the fuck is he doing on this walk? What happens? Why would you do that? Like, why would you take a walk? And and so then I think right before the pandemic started, I went on a hike with Jim Carrey. And right around the corner from where we live, there's these mountains. And we took a walk. And it was the prettiest. It was like we were in Hawaii, like in the middle of Santa Monica. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this was here. And I thought that wasn't unpleasant. and so then when
tolerate this.
There are those people, like I'm also not much of a nature guy, but sometimes you go like I'll go skiing. Yeah, on top of a mountain. I'm like, this is this earth is fucking sick.
Yeah.
This is
and you're like, I'll do it next year. One time's enough.
You have a religious experience. So, on the pandemic, I thought I'm either going to gain a lot of weight and just be like drunk in my office all day hiding from my family, or I'm going to do something else. And so I started taking like 2-hour walks every day. And that's when I thought of the idea for the bubble, was just on one of the walks.
It is people discovering things that like, and we all do it. We all do it where we're like, the main one I've talked about recently was my dad, and he recently discovered water.
I had to trick my dad into drinking water. I'm always saying, Dad, can you drink water? I like Pepsi. Dad, eat green food, but I like Lay's potato chips.
My dad will call
water
me
is a special one
all the time now.
It's like discovering oxygen.
I'm like, a little tired today. He's like, you had a lot of water? Like everything now.
Yeah.
Now that he's found out that it makes him feel better.
Back to you?
I'm like, yeah, no, dude, I've been drinking water my whole life. Like I'm a huge water guy. This isn't new to me. Like,
well, you meet people like that. You're like, you want some fruit? I don't eat fruit. Like ever? Like fruit's not a part of anything? Like
off
vegetables? None. Zero
None.
vegetables.
My dad discovered walks as well, I guess. It's just more just to get away from my mom. And he brings the dog with him, and I think the dog is like all walked out. He's like, I'm tired, bro. This is our 5th walk of the day. We're going like 3 miles each time. I am done, man. You hide from your wife on your own. I'm staying back here with her. So the bubble, we have that in the works. And is there, is there like, because you have this stellar list that we keep talking about, Are there like up and comers that you know of or are trying to put on, or that is the next quote unquote, if you will, that you know is going to be the next big thing?
I mean, I just produced a gay rom-com starring Billy Eichner.
Great.
And that comes out in the fall, and it's really great. Nick Stoller directed it and wrote it with Billy. And that's a great, hilarious romantic comedy. And we've been working on something with the Lucas brothers for a few years that we really like, and we're hoping to get that shot soon. And that one's going to be fun.
I feel like if you get the Judd Apatow seal of approval, it means something, right? I mean, really.
Oh, is that what you feel like?
Yeah, but do you understand like what that means to other people? Like the way, when Ricky came in here and talked about it, he was like, "This is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, getting this cosign and letting into this world." Do you like kind of protect it in a way before you give out the seal?
Well, it's just more like it's a process of working really hard on your stuff, right? So if there's someone that we think is great and has a story to tell, then it's like, do you want to join us to work your ass off, trying to go as deep as you can go to do something really great? Because it's hard, and sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes half a decade to like get the script that becomes, Bridesmaids or something like that. It's a real grind, and a lot of times people don't even want to do it again. Yeah. I mean, it's really tough. But when you find somebody, well, like the Lucas brothers, who couldn't be funnier, and they have a great story, it's exciting to try to figure it out.
Right.
What would make for the greatest version of what they do.
Well, I'm sure you'll figure it out with them as well and make it happen, because that's what you do. So The Bubble is the movie. Sicker in the Head is the book. Yeah. And the podcast will never exist.
The podcast will never happen. And I'm going to have a 92Y this week with Rami Youssef, if anyone wants to see that.
Cool.
And at the Paris Theater, we're going to have a screening where I'm going to do a Q&A on the 29th. Is that what day it is? It's the only screening where we're like talking afterwards in New York. So those things could be fun.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. All right. Thanks for watching today's episode. If you want to make sure you never miss a KFC Radio episode or anything that comes out of the KFC Radio channel, make sure you subscribe. You can also click the bell icon.
KFC Radio Universe.
The KFC Radio, yeah. You got the KFC, the MCU, the KFCU.
Yeah.
You got the KFCU here, the KFC Radio verse, where we have characters and movies and all that. Subscribe. Never miss a piece of content from our KFC Radio universe.
Not a mouthful.